Welcome back. We're on day 7 of our 7-day cybersecurity bootcamp, coming to the end of this course, and we're talking about data encryption. We are covering 6 steps to total data encryption. We covered the first 4. Step 5 starts with employee education. When you use an always-on approach, as we recommended in prior steps, it simplifies the encryption on the user's behalf and minimizes the amount of training you have to do. Employees will still need to be educated, though, on certain things. Like one, your encryption process and how to perform encryption. Even if we're using an always-on approach, they also need to understand how it's performed, so in case they come across documents that aren't encrypted, they do know how to do the encryption themselves. They also need to know the importance of data encryption security and what their role is in protecting your sensitive information. They need to know what's at risk and what the possibilities of fines and penalties are if your data was to be breached. They also need to know what their role is in that particular process. They also need to know that understanding that what the compliance requirements are for the data that you currently hold. If you're in certain industries like healthcare or financial, then you have a totally different set of requirements than you would be if you're in a manufacturing or maybe just a advertising or marketing agency. So make sure your employees understand the different requirements based on your industry. It's very important that you talk to your employees and educate them and create a document on how to share encrypted files with outside parties and the procedure to unencrypt the files when they are received by the third party. It's not very often in our world of today, with us working with so many different companies around the world, that we only deal with internal people. You need to make sure your staff is prepared to work with external parties, and those parties will probably have questions when they receive your files. So you want to make sure that they have procedures to unencrypt those files and they know how to receive the encryption keys from your staff. They should understand that the exceptions to your encryption policy, specifically when dealing with external contacts. There are times when you are going to have to send documents out probably unencrypted because of certain situations and circumstances, and they should understand when those exceptions are, how to document those, and who to get approval from if they are to send documents unencrypted. This is not something you want every employee making that determination, because ultimately your data is at risk and compliance and fines and penalties are lurking around the corner if you do it incorrectly. Your employees need to be educated on the reporting process that they have to use when unencrypted files are accidentally shared or breached and sent outside your company. When you deal with compliance, there's a lot that you have to know about who to notify and when. If you were to breach healthcare records, you need to not only notify the HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, but you also probably need to identify and contact the people who were affected. You'll need to identify, contact the press sometimes in the media or your insurance company, but you need to know the process. The reporting process should be documented well, and it should also be reported and trained to every employee so they know they do have to make a mistake, that they need to report it before it becomes a big issue. The last step of our 6 steps to total data encryption is choosing the right solution for your encryption process. There are several encryption programs on the market. You want to consider closely what you need from the solution and then choose before you continue on. A lot of the manufacturers, like Microsoft, has their own built-in platform, but one of the limitations is the management piece. Just as Microsoft allows you to use BitLocker, it does not mean it's simple to manage BitLocker across tens or hundreds or thousands of desktops. So you want to include your management solution as well. The things you want to consider when choosing one is, does the solution work cross-platform on multiple devices such as Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android? You want to make sure you have one solution that does everything for you, so you're not training your staff and creating supporting documents for different types of platforms. Does it have a centralized management console? That is very important. As you start scaling your company and you have mobile devices in the field, you have to make sure you have something that allows you to see every device at any given time. You also need to be able to manage this automatically, so if a device does become lost or stolen, that it has a timer built into it that automatically deletes the files that are encrypted so they don't get lost or stolen in the wrong hands. This can all be done through a centralized management console. Does it allow for application aware and always on encryption? Not all applications allow for you to always be on, or to allow certain applications to encrypt. Some are based strictly on a folder and file level basis, and you want to make sure that anything you choose does allow you to automate the procedure. If you make it too complicated, remember your employees will not cooperate and you'll end up with a breach or data being sent out that's not encrypted. Where does the solution protect your data is another question. Is it in the cloud? Is it on premise? Is it on all devices? Is it on some devices? You need to ask these questions to make sure that it meets your corporate structure and your corporate security guidelines. Not all encryption platforms are created equal, and not all of them fit every person's corporate security policies. The next question, number 5, is how complicated is it to share encrypted content with external users? This is very important as we start working with more and more people outside our company, and as you email files or you send stuff through an FTP server, once they receive that document, some of your clients especially, they don't want to jump through hoops that's going to make it very difficult for them to read your emails or read your documents. So you want to make sure you have a documented procedure, but also make it easy for them, but not too easy. It must still be encrypted when you send it out, but mostly something they can actually easily create an account and unencrypt the data if needed. The last question I'm going to ask, does it provide you with strong key management? We talked about that in the last section about as you start adding more and more keys. We looked at the key rings where there's one key, and then it looked like the janitor key ring that had like 100 keys on it. And we saw the security guard picture where we trusted one guy with all your keys, and that guy could open up anything he wants in your building. The same thing with your data. You have to make sure the application, the platform you choose, allows you to select whether it's one key or multi-key or any combination thereof, and that anybody who needs to receive that data has the ability to do it with the right key. But you also want to make sure that your HR, your R&D departments, all those people who have very proprietary, confidential information, they may want their own keys. And you may not even want to give those keys to your IT department or your security staff. You may want to keep those keys tightly secured by somebody in that department or a senior management person so that only they can access it. Sometimes your IT guys are your biggest threats. So make sure you don't give all the keys to your entire building to everybody. There should never be a master key to all your encryption ever. Well, that's the end of our encryption process. I do want to go through review of day 7. We talked about how data encryption is necessary in today's world for all companies, from one computer companies all the way to large enterprises and governments. We talked about use a checklist to audit your current environment and your current encryption system to make sure it meets the requirements of any compliance that you have and your corporate security policies. You must, first of all, create and enforce your corporate data encryption policy. You must get people involved from all areas of your company. All stakeholders need to be involved when determining what you're going to use for encryption. Next, you must encrypt all data using full disk and file level encryption. It's not good enough to have just one or the other. Your data moves in and out of your company so quickly through so many different avenues that you must incorporate both types of encryption to make sure your data stays safe. You must also train your staff so they understand how to encrypt and decrypt. They understand how to share data and how to include third parties, and also how to report any kind of breaches in case it does happen. You want to start simple with one shared key, and you can always add more keys if you need to as time goes by. Be aware of your compliance requirements again when it comes to encryption, and you want to make sure you manage all your keys. A locked key could keep you out of all your important files. A key is important so you can secure your data from third parties, so they can't steal your data and read it if they steal your device. But if you lose your key, you also could not access your own data. So a lost key, it's not like calling the locksmith where they can come and drill out your lock and let you in your office. If you lose the key to your encryption, it's very unlikely you will ever get your data back. And you want to encrypt all devices, not just your servers and PCs, but also consider encrypting all data that's outside your office, that's on mobile devices, being emailed or being transferred, but also include all your mobile devices as well. Your iOS, your Android, and you can use your mobile device management, your MDM solution we talked about in earlier modules, to make sure those mobile devices stay encrypted In case somebody loses a phone, all your corporate data will not be lost from that phone. Well, that wraps it up. Congratulations, you've graduated from our 7-day cybersecurity bootcamp. And I hope you learned something. I know it's a lot of information. Review the supporting documents we've included. Go back and look at each section again. Keep it on hand. If you have questions about it, reach out to me. My name is Mark Marley, and I can answer any question you have regarding these topics and more. Stay tuned for more courses from us as we cover more and more security topics as they develop. So what happens next? Well, the first thing I think you should do is schedule an on-site security assessment with NCS. Contact me, Mark, at ncshelpdesk.com, and we can come out, do a security assessment, compare it to your initial assessment, and just see how far you've come in these 7 days. I know it's taking you probably a few more than 7 days to complete all the tasks we've assigned to you, but at the end of this, let us come out, see where you're at, and we can make sure your data is safe and secure. So here's my phone number, 574-268-2482. You can email me, Mark, at NCS Helpdesk, and we will come out and do a security assessment for you. There's so many different facets of security. We just touched on it here. There's so much more that we didn't cover. So reach out to us and let's get this done. And let's make sure your data stays safe, secure, and doesn't get breached. Before the assessment, prepare all the security documents that you created in this course and any notes you took during the course. That way you'll remember any questions you might have created during the course, and you can ask us at that time. We can also go over any of your documents you created to make sure they match the corporate requirements that you have set forward. And basically when we're done, this is what a sample security risk assessment report looks like. We'll go look at your regulatory risk, whether it's high or low, look at your legal risk, any kind of reputational risk you have, which would be insufficient controls protecting your electronic personal health information. We look at your financial risk and your operational risk. We have procedures to audit each one of these areas, and we hope that as we go through this, we can give you a score, and we can come back and we can work with you on an ongoing basis to make sure this score improves each time so you have very little risk for your data security. Again, I'm Mark Marley, and I thank you for attending my 7-day cybersecurity bootcamp. I do recommend that you complete this course and then debrief with everyone else in your company who went through it, and call me back and we can go through it and I can ask you any questions and answer any questions that you have regarding this course or your current cybersecurity status. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time.